It's locker room cleanout day for the Minnesota Vikings following their loss to the Lions and their 7-10 record in the regular season. And on locker room cleanout day, players get questions from reporters about offseason stuff, about players they want back, about their plans for the offseason, da 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 da. And Brian O'Neill was asked about Kirk Cousins. And before I read his quote, of course, players are going to comment about Kirk Cousins because they're going to receive questions about Kirk Cousins. And before I read his quote, I want to tell you this. I always look at things as a skeptic. Okay? Politics, if there's a political commentator, I'm always wondering what kind of BS he's thinking of now. And it's the same with players. When you look at a player's quote, is it BS? Is it true? How true is it? Does he really think this? Like Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell is the biggest BSer in the world at the press conference table. He doesn't say anything. He runs around in 2 to 3 to 4 minute answers and says nothing, which is good for a head coach. It's a bunch of crap. That's how you don't make headlines. That's why you never see Kevin O'Connell's name in a headline, because he always runs around in circles saying nothing. Well, Brian O'Neill said something about Kirk Cousins. He was asked, and this is in the Kevin Seifert ESPN story. And again, I always look at things with a skeptical mind, so what is he supposed to say? But here's his comment on Kirk. He was asked if he wanted Kirk back. He wasn't the first overall pick, O'Neill said. He's not 6'8". He doesn't run a 4.2, but he maximizes 100% of everything he's given. And that story's relatable for a lot of guys. Regardless of what everybody in the world, whatever they believe or whatever their purpose is or their moral compass or how they go about their life, their philosophy, I think people can look at Kirk and say, whatever his is, he lives that fully 100% every day. And he's more true to himself than most people I've ever met. He's true to himself in his preparation and his belief, and he's a baller, and he's really, really good. And I would love a chance to play with him again. Now, this is not a BS comment. A BS comment would be a player coming out to the podium or wherever at his locker, and if they asked him, do you want Kirk Cousins back? And they say, well, that's up to the GM. That's up to the agent. That's up to the negotiations. That's not saying anything. You're not sharing your opinion. You're not sharing your take. But Brian O'Neill went on this long soliloquy about who Kirk Cousins is as a man, what his beliefs are. He's a Christian. He loves Jesus. I love Jesus. I'm a Christian. I'm a youth pastor at our local church. So I love Kirk Cousins and his beliefs and who he is as a person as well. But he just goes on this long diatribe about the person Kirk Cousins is and why he maximizes his the talent around him. And this, as a skeptic reading this, Brian O'Neill 100% wants Kirk Cousins back. If a player didn't feel as strong as Brian O'Neill does about Kirk Cousins, they would come out and say, that's not up to me, that's up to the organization and Kirk's agent. And Justin Jefferson has also had strong words to say about Kirk Cousins, and we've all read those. He went on a long diatribe a couple of weeks ago about how I just want Kirk Cousins back. I want my guy back. It was basically the second coming of Terrell Owens crying at the podium when Donovan McNabb was hurt. That's my quarterback. Justin Jefferson basically said the exact same thing. Players love Kirk. He's voted captain every year, but does that really mean anything every quarter? Russell Wilson was voted captain by his teammates, and he's one of the most unliked players in the NFL right now. But when players come out and take these stances, these strong, powerful stances on who you are as a person and who you are as a quarterback, it means something. And Brian O'Neill's words, I think, are a popular feeling in that Minnesota Vikings locker room. Now, I'm going to share my take on Kirk Cousins and whether or not I want him back at a different time, because that's a podcast for another day. But I just want to make it clear that players love Kirk. Kirk is great, not good, great for the locker room, because he's not only a very, very, very good quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but he's also a good leader, and players respect him. And that's what we're seeing here after the season from Minnesota Vikings players. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Minnesota Tim Podcast, a Minnesota Vikings podcast. Everyone, if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate, review, and follow the show wherever you are listening to this podcast. Everyone, take care and have a great day.